As people are joining, I'll just share a couple of notes. One thing is that I know some of you have already used the chat feature. So we will use the chat function today. If you have a question for the panel, feel free to place it in there, or question or comment. So if you haven't used the chat before, we'll use that today, and you should be able to find that down towards the bottom of your screen. And then secondly, the format of today's session will begin with the panel, which will be the first half of the session. And then we're going to be in some breakout groups, and we hope that all of you will put your video on when you're in the breakout group. Completely fine if you don't want to have it on now while we wait for everyone to join us, but just wanted you to know in the latter half, we would love to have everyone join the breakout groups and use your video so you can see one another and introduce yourself and engage.
And I'm going to build on what Melissa just said. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate. I'm today's moderator. And I actually have a note that I want to share before we go into the breakout groups. But you may be tempted to think, oh, the panel is the important part of this. Let me listen to these people and jump out and go about my day. And I would just really encourage you. Those breakout groups are magic. We're talking about being the CEO of your life. And that really means taking ownership and getting clear on your own definition of that. And these breakout groups are a great place to do that. It's an intimate group. You can start to try on some of the verbiage and try out your own ideas. So I'd encourage you, stick around. It's only 10 or 15 minutes. You'll hear from some really interesting people. So I definitely encourage everybody, stick around for those breakout groups. It's really magic.
And Kate's not just making that up, we're also basing that on prior sessions that we have run. We hear the same feedback from people all the time. So don't let it be intimidating. Let it be an opportunity, as Kate said, to try something new, to meet some new people, and perhaps that will help shape how you become the CEO of your life. We'll begin in just another minute. It seems to be slowing down just a bit here, but I'll just wait another few seconds and see if we get any more participants joining, and then we'll kick things off. All right, thanks for joining everyone. I'm Melissa Bloom from the WIT Regatta. We're here hosting today in collaboration with Northeastern University, and Kate Summer is our moderator. Many of you heard her just speak a moment ago. We're excited to have so many people join us today, especially from various locations. I see people chiming in not only from Seattle, but from Boston and a few other places in the chat. So we're thrilled to have you. I'm going to turn things over to our host, Mary Trimarco from Northeastern University to kick us off. Sorry.
Thank you, Melissa. Hi, everyone, and welcome to round 2 of Becoming the CEO of Your Life. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mary Trimarco with Northeastern, and I'm part of the Corey College of Computer Sciences. Northeastern, you might know, is a Boston university. We have a Seattle campus here. We've been here just over 7 years, and we also have campuses in San Francisco, San Jose, Vancouver, BC. I don't know if anyone here is from BC on the line, Toronto and London. And the regional campuses primarily offer professional master's degrees. You know, the connection with the Regatta started through, kind of a shared mission. At Corey College, we offer the Align program, which is a bridge into our master's in CS. For people who studied anything but computer science. And our goal is to help change the face of computer scientists and software developers, make them look a lot more like the rest of the population. And so we're making progress on that front. And we have over 1,000 students across all of our campuses, and about half of them, yay, are women. And you're gonna meet one of them, Akriti, in just a couple minutes. So we've been sponsoring the Regatta for the last couple of years. In fact, this was the week when the conference was gonna happen, but here we are. And in whatever shape or form the Regatta is going to take, we're really pleased to be involved and share the experiences of our notable alumni, like Mr. Dimitrov, who you'll meet shortly, and our students. Kelsey's a student and a faculty member, and Akriti, in this very cool global community. We love being part of this community. It's so valuable and even more important right now. Let me turn this over to Kate so we can get started. And thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. And thank you so much, WIT and Northeastern University, for partnering with us to put this session on. I will keep my intro short because the real exciting part is the conversation we get to have with these panelists. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm seeing in the chat we have people from all over, from Amsterdam, from Vancouver, Seattle, Boston. Thank you for taking an hour to spend some time with us today. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I find it to be one of the most important self-development conversations you can have. There's a very strong sense of ownership over your own life in being a CEO. And so I'm really excited you can be here today. Our panel is absolutely stellar. You'll hear from them shortly. So I'm Kate Summer. I'm a speaker and a consultant. I'm in the Seattle area, and I focus on helping people to become the CEO of their life through facilitating workshops and hosting conversations like this. So I'm really thrilled you could join us, and I am going to turn it over and let each of our panelists do their own intro. Kelsey, would you like to kick us off?
Sure, thanks, Kate. So my name is Kelsey Call. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, so I'm so happy to see our East Coasters here. But I'm here in Seattle working at the Northeastern campus over here as a cooperative education faculty for the College of Engineering. In addition to that, I'm also getting my doctorate degree in organizational leadership. And part of my research, well, my research is related to women in technology and trying to improve the workplace for women going into STEM degrees. And I'm actually partnering with Regatta for my research. So it's a pretty cool synergy that I get to have here today.
Awesome. Akriti, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Akriti. As Mary already mentioned, I'm a student at Northeastern University. I, in fact, started out in the Align program. So my background was in biomedical engineering, and I worked a lot in neuroscience and robotics. And after that, I moved over to a degree in computer science. I'm originally from India, but I spent 3 years doing research in Hong Kong, and then I moved to Seattle almost 3 years ago. For the last 3 months, I was working as an applied science intern at Microsoft. I'm currently on a break, but I start with another summer internship on the interface of cancer and computer science in Flatiron Health in New York. I'm excited to be here and chat with everyone about being the CEO of your life today.
Awesome. Thank you, Akriti. And Nick, you want to bring it home?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Dimitrov. I graduated Northeastern in the distant year of 1999 with a dual degree in finance and management information systems. I have since stayed in constant touch with Northeastern. I worked for companies like Microsoft and Amazon until about 1.5 years ago when I left to start my own business, which is focused on helping talented job seekers interview effectively with high-tech companies that practice behavioral interviewing techniques. Those are companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and a bunch of others. I'm thrilled to be here today, and I look forward to meeting a lot of you in the breakout rooms.
Awesome. So I'm going to jump right in, given that we only have, I feel like I could talk to each of these panelists for hours and hours, and once you hear from them, you will feel the same. So jumping right in, the topic of today's panel is becoming the CEO of your life. So I want to center us around how each of you define that for yourselves. What does it mean to you to be the CEO of your own life?
Maybe I can start.
Sure.
So I think the way that you were introducing the topic itself, that, being the CEO of your life is essentially being in charge of your life. And that's exactly how I see it. I feel like life is not just life. There's so many aspects to each of our lives as we live it in a day-to-day life. There's our mental health, our physical health, our work, our relationships. And I see all of these as different divisions of my life. And I, as a person, need to be in charge of all of these parts of my life. And what I mean when I say that is that I need to have a plan to maybe live a wholesome life, if I had to put it in those words. So being the CEO of my life lets me be in charge, lets me be in control of all of these different facets of my life and do the best that I can in the time that I have here.
Thank you, Akriti.
Okay, I'll jump in next. Hi, this is Nick again. I'm actually a CEO of my own small business. We have a total team of 5 people and myself. And I think being the CEO of your life is just following what's important for you in the long run. It's very important to make decisions that are difficult, but are also healthy and important in the long run. For a lot of us, those decisions fall along the lines of, oh, do I need to make a compromise with what's important for me for the sake of maybe making more money in the short term, or taking this job career shortcut. I do believe that while once and again we all make these decisions that have short-term beneficial impact, the much better and healthier approach in the long run is to really define what matters to you and pursue it. I personally would share with you that I was making much more money at I had a much higher salary working for Amazon and Microsoft back in the day, but I did choose to pursue my passion. I am now helping wonderful people, like a lot of the attendees on this webinar, realize their dreams and realize their true potential. And I do believe that if you stick to your dreams and your long-term professional calling, money's going to follow. I do believe that that's going to happen. And if you make those right long-term decisions and you're ready to face the consequences, you're going to be, I think, much happier, and you're going to be more successful in the long run.
That's such a good reminder, Nick. I really appreciate you saying that. It can be very hard, especially in times like this, when we don't necessarily know which way is up, and our values maybe are something that we need to get a lot more clear on. So just having that reminder of really prioritizing our values and living out those values, it can be very easy to chase a paycheck. We all have to pay rent and pay the bills, but that reminder to really define what matters to you and pursue it is a nugget I hope that all of our audience can really grasp onto. Thank you. Kelsey?
Yeah, I would just add, when I think about the kind of leaders that I look to or inspired by, they know they don't know everything, right? Part of being the CEO of your life is recognizing when you don't have the answer and knowing who to call on for help and being willing to ask for that help. I think when I think about some of the strongest people in my life and the most inspirational people I've seen and really successful leaders in business, they surround themselves with people who can fill the gaps that they themselves have, right? And so I think being the CEO of your life in a lot of ways is being able to leverage the relationships that you have with others and knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help and who to ask for help.
Yeah, that is so important. That really is a big part of vulnerability, which I have a question for you later, so stay tuned. That vulnerability piece of leadership we often see is so led by strength and led by power and led by these success stories, but there is really a part of it of knowing what you know and being confident in that, but also having the awareness of, hey, I'm not as good at this. Maybe I need to bring in somebody to help, or maybe I need to think about how to augment the skills that I know I'm good at with some help where I may need a little bit of support. Akriti, that actually leads me into a question for you. You talked about each of your life as divisions, and I love that. Thinking of your mental health, your physical health, they're divisions of your life, just like a CEO may have a CFO, a CMO, all of these different operational pieces of the business. One of the things, and kind of the word that, or the phrase that I put to it, is a personal board of advisors to help with each of those pieces. I define that as a curated group of people that I lean on, similar to what Kelsey was saying, to help augment those areas where I'm really strong. And I'd love to hear, thinking through and setting your life up in that way, have you found that being intentional about who you surround yourself with has played a role as you thought of yourself as the CEO of each of these divisions?
Oh yes, definitely. And I love how you call it curating a list of people or a bunch of people who are going to be there for you. And I think it builds very well on what Kelsey just mentioned about you need to be able to know who to ask for help and when to ask for help. And I think that's very important. I personally feel none of us is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Like, I don't think anybody on this call is. And it's very important to realize what about you needs help, and then having the strength to ask for that help. And I think the analogy of board of directors is great, because like the CEO has a CFO, has a CMO, and other people in the board. In the same way, we need to be able to ask and have those people around us. Now, I was talking about, mental health and physical health and work and relationships. There's financial health. I feel since everybody is not perfect, but like everyone is really good at something. So finding that person who might be able to help you with your financial goals, who's done really well financially and is able to help you with personal budgeting maybe. I am a student, and like I said, I transitioned from biomedical engineering to computer science, knowing nothing about computer science, knowing nothing about interviewing in this field. It was very important for me to surround myself with people who had been through all of those experiences. And you can learn a lot from the internet, but there is so much more you can learn when you talk to other people's experiences and the things that they've been through, the mistakes that they made for that matter. Everyone reaches a certain place in their life, but then you can learn a lot from the mistakes that they made in the process so that you don't end up making the same mistakes maybe, and you save a lot of time in that. So I think, so if I had to talk about myself personally, if I had to call them mentors, I guess I'd say I have a different mentor, for school. When I was interviewing for jobs, I spoke to a bunch of different people in different companies who had gone through the same process. I recently got married, and it's been a whole roller coaster of a process, having to learn how to live with another person and having like a new life altogether and having a new family. So having people around me who had been through the same process. In fact, I met a lot of people who got married and then started school exactly like me. So it's not just one person. In fact, I feel it's unfair of us to expect one person to know everything and help us through everything. And that's what I feel in a lot of people. They want to find one mentor and they want them to be the most perfect person to answer all of your questions. And I don't think that's fair to be expecting so much from one single person. In fact, it's great to have a board of advisors who you can go to for different things and get the best answers possible.
I completely agree with that, Akriti. There's so much value in learning from other people and learning from their experience, and you'll make your own mistakes. Don't make somebody else's, learn from theirs and go make your own, right? But I love that. You're absolutely right. It is to expect one person. I love that you started by saying none of us is perfect. How could we expect one person to be that perfect fit for everything that's going on in our own life? We're each so dynamic and so unique. And that really takes a community. It takes finding those people that you can be in a similar life place with and learn together. It takes having those mentors. It takes a diversity of thought to really be a well-rounded CEO, for example. You don't want just the people that are going to tell you what you always want to hear. You want some that will challenge you and some that will be right there with you. And so I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Everybody take that. If you're taking notes, take that as a takeaway. It's unfair to expect one person to be the end all be all. It really does take a community. And I want to call out the piece that you talked about. It starts with a personal assessment of knowing, okay, where am I really strong? And where are those areas where I need some help and support? And that actually leads me in to a conversation I love to listen to and don't love to participate in, is vulnerability. Kelsey, for you, when you talk about finding the people to surround yourself with, I love how you talked about that, because when we think of CEOs or we think of leaders, it's so easy to see all of the shiny parts, right? It's so easy to see all of the press coverage and all of the success stories and all of the hard times when they're at the end, right? This company went bankrupt and then I brought it back and I did all these things and now we're making all this money, or whatever the success story is. We think about that strength and the poise that comes with that title. But one thing that we don't always see is the vulnerability that comes with being a leader, and the vulnerability that comes with acknowledging you don't know everything. And I would love to hear for you, what role has vulnerability played as you've become the CEO of your own life?
Thanks, Kate. I love this question. Because as you said, vulnerability is not fun. I don't think any of us actively call vulnerability into our life. And yet we find ourselves vulnerable at different points in our life. And I want to share a story about how vulnerability can really be an opportunity for growth and for looking at your life in a bigger way and becoming something better. And so 2 years ago, I moved to Seattle from Boston. As I mentioned, I'm from Boston. My family is there. My friends are there. for the purpose of this conversation, my career was there. I had a job that I loved, that I felt fulfilled in. I had colleagues that I adored. And I was working at an institution where I saw infinite growth. You know, I was going to spend the rest of my life working at this institution, moving around and being really happy. I had a plan. And then I came to Seattle and everyone was speaking a different language. The skills and the career path that I'd created for myself in Boston did not translate so easily here in Seattle. And so I had to take a hard look at myself and say, okay, Kelsey, like, what are you good at? What do you like to do? And how can you leverage that differently out here in this context that's just so different from what you know? I was really vulnerable. And I found myself having to apply for opportunities and jobs that I didn't even know existed when I was in Boston. You know, I was looking at stuff that was so far outside of my purview, was a real stretch in a lot of ways. And, you know, 2 years later, I can tell you that now I'm in this job where not only am I engaging in so much of what I was doing in Boston, working with students, helping young people develop lives that are meaningful to them, I'm also building relationships with employers. I'm creating job opportunities for people. I'm doing a doctorate studying women in technology and equity and things that I have always cared about, but never had space for or made space for or known that I could have because I was so set in my path. You know, in 2008, during the financial crisis, a lot of people lost their jobs in banking. And a lot of those people were really smart statisticians, software engineers, mathematicians who went on to work for SpaceX and Tesla. And I can tell you, I don't think they went to work at the bank thinking how they wanted to build a rocket ship. But here they were in this vulnerable position, changing how they thought about their skills and shifting their life. And I share this not to make light of a difficult situation. I know a lot of people right now are in a really difficult spot where they are being challenged to, you know, really think differently about their lives. However, I do want people to see and to think about how, you know, vulnerability breaks us open and makes us think about things that we didn't know were possible before and can create opportunities that we didn't even know were available to us until we found ourselves in these really vulnerable spots.
Yeah, that's so true, Kelsey. It's especially, I mean, that's so poignant for the time that we're in now, where none of us have done this before. None of us have lived through a situation like this. None of us have experienced the far-reaching impact of this health crisis that we're in. And like you said, not to make light of it, but I really firmly believe that being the CEO of your life means choosing how to respond to situations. And just like you said, I actually wrote it as a quote, I'm doing things now that I never made space for or knew to make space for. And I think that's such an anthem, that's such a rallying cry for this time where it's important through vulnerability. It is not comfortable. I am not a vulnerability expert. I actually would love to talk to Brené Brown about this, but I have a feeling if anybody's like, oh, I'm super vulnerable and I'm really okay with it, I have a feeling you're probably not fully in vulnerability because it's uncomfortable, it's uncharted. You don't know which way is up often. And so I love that reminder that while going through these hard times and feeling what we feel, there is an opportunity to see things in a new way. There's an opportunity for new industries to emerge or new ways of working, new ways of connecting. I mean, we're having a conversation right now that is listened to by people all over the world, where if we were doing this in person, we wouldn't have that same dynamic. We wouldn't have that same global attendance and ability for thought and just the far-reaching nature of where we are now. So it's such a good reminder. And I want to also circle back to what you said too, of knowing what you're good at. What do you like to do? How can you leverage it differently in a new context? I feel like that is really, really important. That's a key takeaway as well is, okay, none of us have done this before. What am I good at? What do I like doing? Where do I add value? What lights me up? How can I turn that around and mirror that back to the world? Thank you for sharing that. I love that story of the people at SpaceX. And, you know, I didn't wake up and go to a bank thinking I'm going to build a rocket ship, but that's where we are. You could, you could find yourself in that position. Nick, I want to bring a question to you, being our representative CEO on the panel. You mentioned prioritization and being really clear about your own priorities and what it means. What does it mean to you as somebody who holds the title of CEO for a company, as well as being the CEO of your life? What have you learned from the importance of prioritization?
I think it's very important, as you said, Kate, and as Kelsey mentioned. I think it's very important for us to take a step back in this new normal and see if things need to be reassessed. If you need to reassess who you are and what you do, it's very easy for us to be hostage to some of these tasks and commitments that we used to have when there wasn't this virus out there and this health crisis. So I think for me, first and foremost, I have to prioritize the well-being of the people I care for and I am responsible for, and my personal well-being as well. So if I could share with the team here, with everyone here, just please take care of yourself, healthcare wise, just mentally, just invest in yourself. That's, I think, the most important thing you can do. And then secondly, once you make sure you're in a somewhat decent spot there, just try to restore that sense of normalcy by taking very small steps. Something I've learned in running a business is that it's almost never a single feature or a single new release or a single new discovery that causes this home run change in the outcome of your life. Instead, it's these small sequence of steps, methodical steps, one after the other. There's a saying that in a sufficiently long amount of time, you could fill a bucket with a dropper. So I think if you prioritize yourself first, if you then try to make small, consistent steps towards a longer term goal, you will try to restore, you'll be able to hopefully successfully restore that sense of normalcy. And when you look back, when hopefully this is over a few months from now, you're going to be surprised at the quality of your work, at the quality of how far along you've come. And as Kelsey mentioned, and as Kate mentioned, and Akriti mentioned, that might be even for the better, and you might have been even further along had this not happened to all of us.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. There's a phrase I'm reminded of, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, right? It's like you're saying with that bucket dropper, just keep doing those small actions, create that momentum for action and that bias and that habit toward action. It's such a good reminder, Nick. We're such adaptable people, and we can get 6 weeks down the road and adapt to a new situation without stopping and looking back and being really proud of how we've been resilient through something, or how we've been vulnerable, or how we've taken that time to invest in ourselves. So a really good reminder to just take some small steps and really celebrate where we are and the success that we've made. So looking at time, we're going to do one lightning round question. Given the current situation with COVID and our quarantine, as we are still in it today, what is a recommendation that you would share with our audience, whether a resource, a mindset shift, a quote, something that they can implement this week to become the CEO of their own life? I'm going to put one of you on the spot if someone doesn't.
Yeah, I started, but then I was on mute. So I think one thing that I've been doing in this quarantine is just like this, like being on a Zoom call, seeing so many new faces makes me feel like I'm out again. One thing that I've been doing is pinging people on LinkedIn, and people that I don't know, but people whose profiles I find really interesting and I would want to connect with them. And I think the beauty of being in quarantine now, making the best of what we have, is that everyone has a lot more free time that they do when they have to go to work. And so they're much more willing to get on a call with you and talk to you if you want to. So one thing that I would suggest is get on like coffee chats online, ping people that you always wanted to talk to, maybe reconnect with old friends that you haven't in a while, and then get on a coffee chat, turn on your video and talk to people. And it really makes a difference in uplifting your mood when you're able to see more people than the walls in your house. One little suggestion here is when you do reach out to people on LinkedIn, make sure you write a note to them because if you send a note, just a LinkedIn request to them without any context of why you're sending a request, it drowns in the other list of requests that are there. So just writing a small message along with the request that you're sending goes a long way in like helping you build that connection and start forming that bond.
Excellent. Very true. This is such a great time to be activating and building our network, even if we can't do it in person. So very good reminder, Akriti. Thank you. All right. Nick or Kelsey?
So I was going to share something that I encourage my students to do, and when they're starting their job search or actually at any point in their career in the master's program, is to do some mind mapping exercises. And so what I'm suggesting is, you take a big piece of paper, or even if you take Post-its, it can be a piece of newspaper and a Sharpie, and just for yourself, start documenting and thinking about what are your success moments? What are the moments that you've had at work or in life, in school, that you felt like you just had an amazing day? You want to repeat that sort of thing. And start just putting those out for yourself. And as you start looking at these moments and these experiences that you've had, you're going to start seeing trends. And that's where I think you're going to be able to find things in yourself that you didn't even know existed. Right. So when I did this activity, when I first moved to Seattle, I realized that building relationships is something that's really critical to my core. It just kept popping up. And it wasn't until I really started thinking about all the places in my life that I'd been doing this that I was like, oh, I really need to activate this at work. I need to find a way to bring this in. And this activity is helpful, if you're looking for a job or making a shift, but also if you want to start job crafting and thinking about things you want to bring into your work that's going to fill your bucket, or just like have some clarity right now in a time of change where you're like, okay, what matters to me? What am I good at? What do I care about? I think this activity can be really healing and really helpful.
And that's a really great way to spend some time. I'm a big fan of Post-it notes.
Yeah, so I'll go as well. I think it's important to surround yourself with positivity. Try to seek out that positivity. These are very tough days, but surround yourself with positive people. In my life, I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful wife and a wonderful 4.5-year-old, and he is just beside himself with joy. Right? To him, COVID is Disneyland because he doesn't go to daycare, and he spends half of his day with his mother. The other half of his day spends with me. We run outside and we play, and just see that positive perspective, seek that positive perspective out in other people, and try to adopt as much of it as you can.
I love that. Such great reminders. So we are going to break out into our breakout rooms now, but just very quick, thank you panelists so much for sharing your thoughts and your time with us. Like I said, I know this conversation, we could all chat for much, much longer, but I'm excited to shift us into our small groups. And again, if you are tempted to duck out at this point, I really encourage you to stay. These small groups are magic. You really get to start trying on your own definition and exploring what it means to you to be the CEO of your life. So what we're going to do is in a few moments, you're going to receive a little notification on the screen that will prompt you to join a small group. There will be 4, maybe 5 other people. We'd love to have video on for that connection piece. If you're uncomfortable, that's fine. Keep your video off. You can just do voice. We're going to put up a question for you to discuss, and you'll have about 15 minutes to discuss, and then we'll all come back together afterwards. We're going to share some collective wisdom, which is a really fun part as well. You're going to start to see, oh, other groups are talking about the same thing. You could also get some really interesting ideas from other groups. So you'll get that notification in just a few moments. So when you go into your group, introduce very quickly your name, your current location, what led you to attend this session, how did you hear about it? And then we want you to be able to move into the question of how can you show up for yourself this week and become the CEO of your life. Awesome. We'll give everyone just another minute to join us. Thank you everybody for staying on with the groups. You'll see most of you are muted right now. So what we're gonna do as everybody's coming back is we're actually gonna just light up the chat feature. So what I'd love you to do is just share, not specifics, not names, but just share some of the themes or even your own thing that you're going to do this week or ideas around how you can become the CEO of your life. I really love this part because each of us get to have our own conversations, but then now we get to share some of this collective wisdom and see some of the inspiration from other people. So go ahead and drop in the chat some of the things either that you found interesting or ways that you're going to be the CEO of your own life. And then I'm going to pick through a couple and I'll ask you to come off of mute and expound a little bit and share some of the wisdom. So go ahead and drop in the chat window. And Melissa, I should have checked it. Do we have everyone back?
We do. Yep, we're all set.
Okay. Awesome. So one thing while everybody is dropping into their chat, one thing that I found really interesting that we talked about in our group is we're seeing such a shift towards being human. And one thing that I really love about that of how to become the CEO of your life is just allowing change and allowing this to be a time where you can think about, okay, how do I want to show up? Who do I want to be on the other side of this? What do I want to bring back? What do I want to leave in quarantine and rebuild? Someone in our group said it very poetically, with every crisis comes opportunity. So I would say that's one of the themes and one of the ways we had talked about becoming the CEO of our own lives is how can we look at the opportunity of this time and see how we want to show up. So now I'm going to read through because I see you all are dropping things in the chat. So the process is more important than the end goal. It's very good to remember. Mindfulness, gratitude, a couple counts for accountability, which is a very good thing. We can feel a little isolated. What else? Oh, the science of well-being. Oh, that's an excellent resource. That is an excellent one. Design Your Life. Also, I forget the two authors, but that's a really great resource too. Introducing accountability. So Larissa, I would love, since we have a theme of accountability, Larissa, I'd love for you to come off of mute and explain a little bit more about what you were saying about introducing accountability for your projects and plans and how you're going to do that this week or what was discussed.
It was actually not my idea. It was one of the ideas of Carrie was in our group, and she told a very nice story that I think I'll render. So it was one of her professors who said that for her birthday, she would have, she would invite people who are like mentors or who are like very close friends and like report what's been done within a year, right? Almost like a CEO of a company. And I thought, again, like I think the stories just helped me to like have this, like remember it better. And then I did I just know about myself that I'm a very deadline driven person. If there is no clear deadline, let's say there's a project that needs to be done, but there's no clear deadline on it, it might be a year until I finish it. So I guess just having this more accountability, either in terms of strict deadlines so they can exist, or if they don't exist, then find let's say collaborator, the person who is dependent on you, like for example, you're, another CEO or another employer in a company. So they hold you accountable. Or I guess in the worst case scenario, if neither of these options is available, find a trustee, find a person who you trust, who can hold you accountable, and just ask them to check with you, like in the end of the week and the end of the month, what has been accomplished. And so in this case, maybe you'll feel more motivated, and I'm sure I will, because I know it about myself, that I can share. It's like, oh, I've done so many things today, or in the end of the week. So let's go and celebrate it together.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's accountability. I'm noticing that accountability and taking notes of your success. I'm noticing as a theme through our chat of people talking about, and both of those are really important, especially in a time where we can feel so isolated. It's very easy to make big audacious goals and then 3 weeks later be like, oh yeah, it's a Post-it note somewhere over in the corner. Having that accountability, activating your network, having somebody that you trust. I love that you brought that part up. Having somebody that you trust that can call you out or encourage you or be there with you. So what I'm going to do, since we're getting up towards time and I want to be really respectful of people's time, we'll stay on just a few minutes afterwards for anyone else that would like to continue chatting. But what I'm going to do is you're going to get a recap, or you're going to get a follow-up email. And what I'm going to do is through the chat, I'm going to pull out some themes, and I'm going to highlight some themes from our entire group, all of the people on this call. So you can see a few of the ways that others are becoming the CEO of their own life this week. And see that even though we are all in different countries or different places, we are far more connected than we realize at times. And a lot of us are in similar places or facing a lot of the same things. So with our last minute, I want to first say thank you, WIT Regatta, thank you, Northeastern University, and our panelists for your time, for prioritizing women in technology, for creating a place for us to have this conversation. I want to thank everyone that's on this call. You took an hour out of your day. You took the first step already in becoming the CEO of your life. You showed up for yourself. You put yourself in a position where you can learn and be surrounded by others. So I applaud you for that. And I just want to say, if anybody would like to, as a wrap up, if anybody would like to connect with any of the panelists or myself, please feel free on LinkedIn. That information will also be in the follow-up email. And then I'm going to be hosting, if you found this conversation interesting and you want to deep dive more, I'll be hosting a more tactical workshop where we'll really get into what does it mean to be the CEO of your life and how to build your own personal board of advisors. So you'll get all of that information in the recap. But thank you everybody for joining us. Keep an eye for that follow-up email. There'll be a survey as well. We'd love to hear what you think. We'd love to hear any thoughts that you have from this panel. And then go about your day, be the CEO of your life. And thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And we'll stick around for just a few more minutes for anybody that wants to stay on. I feel like with all the energy, we need like some outro music. Like we need,
I know.
Something lively.
Everyone in my breakout, they were all from Boston, and one of them was in Costa Rica.
Oh, I saw you had one person from Costa Rica.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, our breakout, I loved it. There was only 2 of us in Seattle. We had Vancouver, we had New York, Seattle, and then Amsterdam, which was really fun because in person, I mean, how often would we be able to have all of that represented in one room? So I thought that was kind of fun.
Even we had someone Netherlands. There were 3 of us from Seattle and there was someone from Amsterdam, I'm guessing.
Awesome. Oh, that's so cool.
I see we have like 25 people still on the line. If anybody has a specific question, you could either, unmute yourself or you can use the chat if there was anything specific you wanted to ask a panelist or a comment you wanted to share.
Yeah, good point. Well, you've still got us.
There's a typo on your website.
On mine?
Yeah, I was just looking at it, and it's like BIUL instead of build.
Oh, lovely. I will let my website person know. Thanks.
Yeah, but I'm Seattle as well.
Do you know a new website person?
I
need one.
I mean, my husband used somebody. They were, it was like $1,500, but there was a lot of video and bells and whistles. So I can certainly connect you if you're interested. But it was, like a kind of a professional US-based person. So if you want that, then sure.
I'm learning one of the things as I've really leaned into this build your board of advisors work. I've gotten really clear on what am I really good at and what am I not good at and what do I not want to spend my time like Googling or fixing or investing hours trying to learn something new. So I feel like that's a key part of being the CEO is where to put your energy, right? What's the highest and the best use of your energy?
Yeah, there are a couple websites that took like some of my writing, and I'm like, the last thing that I want to do is go through the process of getting that removed and just deal with that. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, but the fun part is that it's very easy actually to learn how to create your own website, because I had to find something to do. I wanted to learn something new this period. So I signed up for a course how to build your website, because I have I have all the things, but I never use it. And I learned it in 30 minutes. It's really unbelievable how easy it is. So if you have a moment, just give it a try. it's very rewarding because you don't no longer have to bother people with, I want to have it in that corner. You just put it yourself there in 2 minutes.
I love that. I'm so inspired by people. That's a really, Chair, thank you. Has anyone else spent this time learning like a totally brand new skill? Like I've seen people like baking bread and things like that, learning websites. Like, what are some of the ways that people have spent their time? Akriti, go for it.
I'm learning Spanish. I watched this show on Netflix called Money Heist, and I loved it. And I had to watch it with subtitles, and I wasn't a big fan. So I was like, I'm going to watch a second run. But before that, I'm going to learn Spanish. So that was my motivation. But since I have a lot of free time now, I'm using it to learn a new language.
Nice. That's amazing. That's amazing. Anybody else? Any new skills?
I have a quick question for Akriti. Like when you talk about LinkedIn, and how do you usually reach out to people? Like what do you say to build that connection?
I feel like I got this question so many times on chat, and I even spoke about this during the breakout room. I should have just mentioned it when I was talking to everyone. Such a great question. I think when I reach out to people, if I find someone that I really want to connect with, I make sure that, so there's an option of sending a message along with the connection request. So I definitely go through the person's profile, actually have a reason for why I want to connect with them. Most of the times it's because they have a very similar background as I have, because I'm transitioning from a non-tech background to a tech background, and I want to understand how they reached where they did. So in my message, I introduce myself. I say, hey, I'm Akriti. I'm doing masters here, so and so. This is my experience. This is why I liked your profile, and this is why I want to connect with you. If you have the time, can we please get on a call? I feel like a lot of people, at least me as a person, do not want to chat. So if I ask them to get on a call, more often than not, people will get ready to get on a 10-minute call rather than spend a lot of time replying to a chat on LinkedIn. So I think writing a message and having like an action associated with the message definitely helps.
I don't think you can do that anymore if you don't have LinkedIn Premium.
You can. So there's an option. Good question. So there's like 3 buttons, a 3-dot button, which is there next to send a connection request option. So if you click that, there is an option of sending a message along with the invitation. So the message can't be very long. I think it's around 400 characters or so, but that also gives you the time to introduce yourself in 400 characters, and just having an elevator pitch at that time really helps.
I would just add too, when I talk to my students about how to do this, because this is a conversation I have constantly with my students, is I always try to make it easy for someone to say yes. So imagine people are really busy, even though we have extra time, we are busy, right? So I always encourage people to give a couple blocks of time that you're available and ask the person, okay, are you available on Friday between 1 and 3 or on Monday between 2 and 4? And literally give them those times so that they can easily come back to you and say yes, rather than going back and forth trying to schedule. No one likes to do that. So if you can give a couple time blocks, that can be really helpful as well when you're asking someone for their time.
That's a great point, Kelsey.
So I have a question for you all. So how do you find the process of like, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Like, I feel like I know some of those things, but it could be vague. But then it could also be, I could be lying to myself. Like I could be thinking that, oh, this is my strength, but it might not really be a strength. I just wanted to maybe feel like I'm good at it. So I wanted to know, like, what process did you all take? Was it just like an aha moment, or was it like a long stretch? Like it took you months to know this is my strength? You asked some people, or just some ideas? I want to like work on it next week or upcoming days. Maybe. Great if you could share.
Yeah, there are a number of different personal assessments you can do. So it depends on how you process information and how you learn. One way that I actually love is what Kelsey said. I don't know if you were with us when we were doing the rapid round of what's one tactical thing you can do this week, is just mind mapping. For me, I started to make a list because I actually asked myself this question in my career. I was like, I don't even know what I want to do next. Where do I want to go? Like I was in a job I really didn't like, but I didn't know what I liked. I just knew what I didn't like. So just starting a list, like a mind mapping with Post-it notes or something. When do I feel really happy? What am I doing? When do I feel really accomplished? What are skills that I'm exhibiting? Start to kind of take some of your own inventory of how you feel and what's going on. that'll start to help you with some strengths. It can be very hard too. One thing I'll say, a mentor of mine said, well, of course you think organization is easy and everybody's doing it and it's not a strength of yours, or it's because it's a strength of yours. So start to ask other people as you're finding your own strengths, do exactly what you're doing. What are some of your strengths? And you'll hear people say, oh, I love analytics. And you're like, oh, for me, I'm like, oh, that's a strength of yours because that's not mine. You know? Or for me, organization. I love organization. And some people might go, no, I'm the creative type over here. So start to ask yourself some of those questions of what do I like doing? What are ways I like spending my time? And that might help you start to identify some of the areas that are strength for you. Also ask people around you that you trust, mentors, peers, friends, you know, what do you think I'm really good at? I'm trying to figure it out. I got some very insightful responses from people when I did that. So I'll open it up to others, but this is a question I have spent a lot of time going through, and I revisit too, to your point of did it take a long time or a little bit of time? It will take some time. Give yourself some time, like Kelsey was saying, to see some of those themes in the data that you're collecting. But I find asking other people is helpful too, that you trust and that can give you feedback in a way that is constructive and beneficial. But I'd be interested to hear other people's ideas too.
Yeah, I think I agree on the bit about asking feedback. It's very important to have people around you who will give you very honest and constructive feedback. Having maybe just one person like that helps. Sometimes you can have blind spots to what you're doing and what you're good at and what you're not. For me, that person is my husband. I know he loves me, but then there are certain times where like he's very honest to me about, okay, like I don't hate you and it's not like I don't like you, but you really need to know this. So I think there's phrases involved throughout the day, but then there's times during the day he's like, this is just not okay and maybe you need to work on this. So I think your mother or your father, or like someone in your friend circle, someone at work, like someone who's able to give you honest feedback is definitely important in trying to understand what you're good at and what you might be lacking. I think that definitely helps me.
I'd also add, I think I second everyone's opinions here that you need to talk to people who you trust, people who know you, people that you haven't seen for a long time, people that you've known for many years, going back to mentors from, for me, like going back to college mentors is really helpful once in a while to just remember, like, what did I care about then? What was I good at then? What can I keep bringing in? But then the other thing that I'd want to add too, I mean, this is not a science, right? That's the other thing, like who you are and what you care about is never going to be an exact, don't put so much pressure on knowing everything and trying to figure everything out. One of the things in all of this that I think is also really important, in what environments do you thrive, right? So like you might be really good at something, but if you're working in an environment that just does not jive with you, it doesn't work for you, like the people you're working with, your colleagues, you don't have the same mindset or you don't have the same interests or you're not working towards something that matters to you, it doesn't matter how great you are at organizing things if you hate the mission of the organization that you're part of, right? So I think that's another piece in all of this that is sometimes harder to dive through and think about, but is really critical, is like what like gets me excited to like do things, like what sort of mission do I need to be part of, what kind of people do I need to be around, what sort of organizations do I want to be connected to that are going to help me use those skills in a way that makes me feel good. Important.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your ideas. Definitely helpful, like what makes you thrive and then also what makes you happy and asking feedback. Great notes. Thank you.
Good question.
Kelsey, that's a really good point that it's not a science. I think it can be so easy to just try to like solve all the things. And I just literally wrote that down in my own note taking of like, Kate, remember, it's not a science. This is like a process, right? So that was a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Does anyone have any final thoughts? I think we'll start to wrap it up pretty soon here, but does anyone have any final thoughts, or did you get to share what your action is today or for the next week to become the CEO of your life? I'd be interested to hear what people's actions were, since I didn't get to be part of every single breakout group, which is the bummer of being an individual person and not being able to be in many places at once.
Hello.
Perfect. Hi, Maha.
Hi. So I am actually in the process of applying for a technical program in Seattle to become a software engineer. And actually, as I was joining this webinar, I received an email from them to be invited for a technical interview. So I'm very excited about that.
That's awesome. I'm glad we can celebrate that with you.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting because it was like I was really starting to worry. It's like, oh, when am I gonna hear back? Am I gonna hear back? And then as I was still in the process of taking an action and participating in this webinar, which is in itself a step forward towards just becoming a better version of myself, I received this news, and then so that is one thing I'll be scheduling the technical interview this week.
Excellent. Oh,
good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's a great
Thanks for putting on this beautiful webinar. I'm excited and looking forward to more participating in more of this.
Awesome.
Hi, Kate. I have a final question for you. Yeah. How did you build up your facilitation skills? Did you like a natural, like a good speaker, or did you kind of pick that up along the way?
I would say it's half and half. If you ask my parents, they would say the skill is not getting Kate to talk, it's getting her to not talk. So being in front of people, I wanted to be a musical theater person when I was younger. So I love being in front of audiences and people, but really I have studied other people that ask really good questions. I love learning and I love hearing people's stories. So one of the ways I've spent a lot of time, I listen to a lot of podcasts and collect questions, you know, with the way Tim Ferriss is one that asks really good questions. Brené Brown asks some really good questions. There's a number of other people, but just studying other people that I respect and how they facilitate conversations and just getting better at thinking through what am I trying to learn from this person? How can I draw out a story? And it takes a lot of practice. It also takes a lot of self-editing because as I said, I could literally sit and just talk. We could leave this open until 8 o'clock tonight and I would still be here asking questions and like wanting to get to know everybody's stories. So if you are like me where talking comes very easily, it's a practice in self-editing as well. And getting really clear, like Nick was saying, getting really clear on your purpose and your values, like getting very clear on what am I trying to learn from this person or what is the theme that I'm, you know, trying to get a story around. Yeah. Awesome. Well, any last thoughts? Anybody? I'm so happy. I'm like, man, we're getting like the after party here. So many people wanted to stay and hang out. Yeah. Last chance before we give everyone back their time. Panelists, thank you so much. Nick, Akriti, Kelsey, thank you for spending the time with us, for making yourself available.
Thank you so much.
For being vulnerable with us and sharing some really actionable stories and insights. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again. I had as wonderful a time as I had the first time.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Keep an eye out for the follow-up email. It will have the links and we'll have some themes and you can sign up for the Personal Board of Advisors workshop I'm teaching. And then if you have additional questions, please, all the panelists and myself have said, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. If it wasn't a forum where you felt comfortable asking a question publicly, please feel free to reach out and have an amazing day. And thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.